decades ago now, I asked Luis Rodriguez, he's a former gang member who got out of gangs through the literature revolution. I asked him, why are kids standing on street corners shooting at mirror images of themselves? And he said it's because they're teenagers, and teenagers have this impulse. They know they're supposed to die. And what he meant by that is that they're supposed to die as children to become adults. But there is no social
like rites of passage.
Rites of passage. There's no larger social structure in which to manifest, so they confuse this urge to die. They confuse the spirit. I mean, every religion has this baptism, death and rebirth, and they confuse the spiritual and metaphorical for the physical because they know they got the impulse, and so they shoot a mirror image of themselves. So if we can have those. I remember when I interviewed Susan Griffin, 1992 or something, and she was saying that, males have testosterone and it's going to manifest. And the question is whether it can manifest through, going out hunting, or whether it's going to manifest through, beating up. Oh God, we should talk about some of the indigenous games, like the stick game by the Ottawa. I mean, some of the lacrosse, Jesus Christ, it's nuts. I mean, they basically, I got a friend who plays lacrosse, and they basically just beat each other with sticks. And, that I actually don't have a problem with sports that way, but I think it's a ritualized warfare that doesn't cost anything, or costs very little. There's some, people get beaten up, but it's not. She's looking at me like, how are we talking about? This is exactly what we're talking about, though. It's like, yeah, I can get out there and sort of elbow people around. She's like, what the fuck would you do that for? But I think that testosterone can manifest in that way, as opposed to, when we have big brow ridges, we're supposed to be going out and getting hit. You've had your hand up a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, community is fundamental to all of these things that we've spoken about, and I hate to say it, obviously the demographic of the room, but as younger people, I was involved in X1 and things like that, and it's very much one type of environmental movement. How do we even just galvanize the energy in this room? Because I know it's talking. Maybe some of us live quite locally, and I'm wondering how we actually we talk about community, but how do we actually create it? And should that not be the priority instead of talking? Because I would say that we all, on a human level, understand this fundamental issue. So should we not all be putting our minds to...
Come on, ask the question.
Yeah, I don't know. But should we all be putting our minds to, where do you live? What can we do next week? How can we actually get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I'll make a start on that, because I guess what I was trying to say, right, was that engaging in strategic adaptation, transformative adaptation, deep adaptation is, in my judgment, the most important thing that a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us can do with our time. That is probably, for many of you, unlikely to be with other people in the room, actually, because people in this room have come from all sorts of places, and the most important way to engage in meaningful community-based adaptation is in your community. And when I say community, I mean literal geographic community. And this word community has become sort of abused over the last generation. People say things like, I'm in the gaming community or something, which just means I play games with people all over the world on a computer. That's great, but that's not a real community, right? So
tell us what it is.
So a real
you seem to know a lot about it.
Yeah. So a real community is in your postcode, maybe.
Yeah, I know, but I said locally as well. I did actually say that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's all I'm saying is that would be my top recommendation. Would be, if you want to kind of take a sort of prompt from what I said this evening, it would be go back to your postcodes and prepare for local government
the UK. This is an amazing opportunity, actually, having, you know, these speakers and these people in the room,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm quite anxious to be like,
Well, by all means, I'm
get out
sure
of
people can,
this.
you know, can network at the end of the evening if they want to. But
I mean,
that
maybe
wasn't
it would
my,
be good
that
to
wasn't my
provide
top
space for that.
recommendation. I was just saying that.
I think the building of community is really important, and I mean, for me, that comes through, I mean, my community at home consists of, you know, Mac and Mary Beth, and, you know, just local people I know with whom I do regular work. It has nothing to do with the political stuff. I mean, a little bit, but not
Well,
much.
that's not just political, though. You can't say that.
Well, but there was another point I wanted to get to, which is, community is important, but back in 1997, I was part of this group of animal rights activists and organic farmers who were doing this visioning session over a weekend that was just, and you can tell by the look on my face, I'm visioning. Toward the end of it, we did this exercise that drove me crazy. And the exercise was, it's 1997, and he said, okay, it's 20 years from now, and we've been able to start living sustainably. And you know, that's 2017, so kind of came and went. And he said, we're living sustainably, and I want everyone to picture what that community looks like. I want you to picture what it smells like. And everybody's going around the room, and it's like, we're biking to work, and nobody talked about where we got the metal for the bikes. Anyway, we're biking to work, nobody talked about the work. Nobody talked about the bike paths, nobody talked about the roads. Anyway, they're all going around just describing how beautiful this is. It was like walking through that park with the plane tree, you know, it's just this nice park. And then they get to me, and I did what I always do, which is to fart at a garden party. I said, okay, so first off, nobody talked about how we got to this sustainable society from here. Nobody talked about the most important thing, which is, let's say we in our community are able to live sustainably. That's great, we have this wonderful community, and those in power discover resources under our land that they want. We all know what happens to our community, we know what happens to the land, we know what happens to, but none of us are talking about that. And the moderator said, thank you, next. And the point here is that community is really important. Well, two things. One of them is that I'm a writer, so I'm not the person to ask about community, because it's like, I am not the life of the party. I hide. But there are people who are like organizers, like people actually helping the people. And I'm making a joke, but that's real. There are people who are really good at creating community. Paul Fuegos, for God's sake. And I'm not one. I took a long time to say that. And the other part is that if we do have our communities, I think at this point, we have to talk about resistance. Because if we do establish a community, it's going to be destroyed. And I want to say one more thing about community, which is, oh my God, we are all fucking nuts. It's like, so I asked this guy from West Virginia if the people on the right are as crazy as the people on the left.
The left it was.
And he told me that there was this KKK chapter in this one town in community, this one town in West Virginia that consisted of 3 brothers. And then 5 years later, there were 3 KKK chapters in the town, each one consisting of one of those brothers. And it's like the People's Palestinian Front and the Judean from Monty Python. It's like people. There are people who can make these, but I'll say one more thing, and then I'll just finally shut up. That I think it was evolutionarily, it was in the interest of the planet that humans, I think, are fundamentally contentious. I don't think we're fundamentally evil. I don't think we're fundamentally hardcore violent, but I think we fight a lot. Bats, you say the bats thing, I'll come back.
So for bats, they have figured out a lot about what bats say, and 90% of it is, you're in my space, move over. The other 10% is like, oh, you're kind of cute, and that's basically it. Most of it is like, you are annoying the shit out of me, move over.
did you see what he did the other day? And I think that it was evolutionarily in our interest to be kind of contentious, because that kept humans at numbers of 100, 80, 120, Dunbar's number of the largest number you can have with direct participatory government. It kept us from I think the most important invention that humans ever created, the most destructive invention, and I take this straight from Lewis Mumford, is what he called the mega machine, which is a machine composed of interchangeable human parts. And that's how they built the pyramid thing. And what it is, it's a top-down military-style bureaucratic organization, so that you can have 1 million people whose job it is to cut down a forest, sell Pepsi-Cola, kill the Jews in Germany, invade Russia, doesn't matter what it is. Administer Department of Human Services, doesn't matter. Because humans fundamentally poke each other. And so I think community, say one more thing, sorry, that Jeanette Armstrong, the Okanagan Indian writer and activist, she said to me decades ago, we Indians have the same problem you white people do. We don't get along. And the big difference is I know that my great-grandchildren might marry your great-grandchildren. And so we have to find out ways to live together, even though oftentimes we can't stand each other. And I think the same is true, by the way, for non-humans. I think that for us and non-humans, I think that there are times, I see 5 or 6 bears every day, and I like them a lot, and sometimes she has seen this, that I will run outside and start yelling at the bears, get away from the door, get away from the house, go away. You've seen this.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they annoy the shit out of me, but I know that I have seen their great-grandchildren now. We live together, and community is not some kumbaya thing. It's like, a lot of times we just can't stand each other.
Yeah, I mean, one more thing on that. Among the skills that are going to be so important in the future are mediation and conflict resolution. People really need to be getting good at those now, like you said about we need to tackle male violence, etc. now. You can't wait until there is very, very likely further societal decline to be ready to move into a space of engaging seriously in conflict resolution, etc. We need to be doing it now.
It's about community, but it's also about role models.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
particularly for men.
I really hear that you have a lot of passion for this and a lot of, something you really want to do. And I would really just encourage you, if you want to pass around a sheet and have people give you their names or their email addresses, if you want to start something here and try to start building that, I think that would be amazing. And there may be other people in this room who would like to get in touch with you. So you have total permission to try to connect with everybody else in this room in any way that you want, because we're leaving, but you'll still be here. So feel free to really try to anybody who wants to get to, I don't know what your name is, but
Yeah, was there anyone, because I know there was a DGR UK group, is there anyone from it that was here?
it's basically just
No, yeah.
nobody.
I mean, it would be a nice idea, but I don't
Oh,
want to
hi,
take
hey,
it.
how are you? Talk to her. Talk to Ellen, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was trying to start DGR.
Can I?
What's that mean? I was long, so you might. I tried to start DGR the Netherlands. I was low, so I didn't. So you might want to talk to me.
I'm just also going to take this moment to say I'm going to pass around a sign-up sheet for anyone who wants updates about the Climate Majority Project or about my own work. So I'm just going to pass this around.
So I think it's your next. I don't want to, Madam Jackie.
Three sentences. Advocating a Phoenix future might be a plausible sell for people brainwashed into this toxic culture, but it's still human supremacist. And instead of starting by asking how do we maximise the diversity of life that's going to get through this bottleneck, the mass extinction, we're advocating starting off by privileging humans, which is exactly what this toxic culture is doing to destroy the world. And I'd just like to conclude by noting that most of the questions and discussion tonight has been completely gender-centric, and I think that's problematic.
Thank you.
licking my foot right now. This dog has decided to make it non-human centric. I hear what you're saying. I would just point out that I did, for example, make the point explicitly in my talk that I regard some non-human cultures as in important respects superior to human cultures. I don't think that's human-centric. But also that I started out early on in my talk by saying we need to remember that human beings are nature too. So it's okay to give human beings a certain amount of attention. What we don't want to do, it seems to me, and this is crucial, is to fall into the trap of thinking human beings are not nature, human beings are in some sense inferior, evil, or whatever, and we should just kind of put them aside. We shouldn't oppose human nature to non-human nature. We should look for a genuine synergistic potentiality between them. That's what I was trying to say.
I think that's all great, and I'm going to take it back in a second, but can we do the James Howard Kunstler line? About the evil people. This is kind of a joke, and then I'm going to come back about the music. So James Howard Kunstler.
Do you know who he is? He wrote the geography order, and then he's written a bunch of books. There's a lot about peak oil, but his first book was about how the suburbs have destroyed the entire continent of North America, and why everybody hates them, and why they were built, and all this. And it's a very, very good book, and he's a very good writer. He's very cranky. It's very funny. So, and what Derrick's getting at, he wants me to tell you. So, at the end of the book, you're pretty devastated by the time you get to this point. And then he starts talking about his childhood, and he grew up in this Jewish household that was very secular. His dad's a lawyer, and around the table for fun, you just debated all the time. And he really wants to emphasize that we were not religious at all. That this is sort of my background. And you're getting to that point as the reader, we're like, why are you telling me this? Like, what are we on about? And then he gets to the punchline, which is, as I travel around America, I find myself having the following thought: we are an evil people, and we deserve to be punished. I'm embarrassed by this thought, yet I stand by it. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever been to the United States, but it is so ugly. Like, they didn't just destroy this continent. And he's like, you just want that like Old Testament moment of like, God is just gonna go, we're done with this. And it's very funny, so.
So, when I was a kid, I was very messy, and I still am, frankly. And my mom would say, clean your room. And I would say, okay, and I wouldn't do it. And then she would say, clean your room, and I wouldn't do it. And then she would say, okay, so here's the thing. Either you clean your room, or at dinner time, if you haven't cleaned your room, I'm going to clean your room, and if I clean it, you're not going to like it because I'm going to throw everything away. That's the position we are currently in. We are in overshoot, completely overshot. We are destroying everything, and either we can clean ourselves up, we can clean up what we can, or nature's going to do it. And if nature does it, we're not going to like it, because nature's going to throw everything we have away, and frankly, a lot of other species are going to get thrown away, as are already happening. And I am only speaking for myself here, I'm not speaking for the other people out here, but if humans survive, that's fine. But given what we have done, we collectively deserve anything that happens to us. And I think prairie dogs would agree with me. And again, I think humans have our own beauty. And I don't know if anyone has fucked up so badly since probably the oxygen catastrophe.
And humans with dominant culture, apologies to jump in there. I don't think indigenous peoples should be blamed for what this culture's done.
At this point, well, two things. One is the aurochs were driven extinct early, And
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the superb book by Tim Flannery, The Future Eaters. It's a controversial book, but I recommend it very, very highly. He makes the following argument: that humanity basically exterminated the megafauna everywhere except Africa. Yet we have indigenous cultures that seem to live in harmony with nature. And he asks, how do we square those things? You know, our ancestors or their ancestors did this mass extermination, but now they're living in harmony with nature. And basically the argument he makes is they learned. The ones that didn't go extinct learned that if you destroy your megafauna, you destroy everything. And the argument he makes applied to us, and it's a great title, isn't it? Future Eaters, is that we have to try to learn from that and not repeat the mistake on the vastly greater scale that we are now repeating it on. Now, you know, the jury's not completely in, but it's not looking great in terms of that. But that's where I think we can think about where indigenous cultures stand in relation to this.
yeah, that's great.